He's sitting pretty good.
World Trade Center 7 had always been considered the starting point for rebuilding. Located north of the slurry wall, 7 had been cleared faster than the rest of the site, and there had been no bodies to recover. Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed, 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
How many of you think that Larry's talking about pulling the firemen out of the building? And that's what he came back and said, oh, that's what I meant. Well, first of all, there's no firemen fighting in the building. They were pulled out of the building well in the morning. There was no, I mean, they weren't fighting the fire. They weren't, so they were told not to go in, actually, after saving just a couple of people in there. They did not have any intent to fight the fire. And pull it? If he was talking about firemen, he would have clearly said, pull them right out of the building. And they don't decide to bring a building down in an afternoon. And firemen don't pull buildings, first of all. So there's a series of problems with this whole story too. But it's not evidence, and that's why I didn't show you earlier. It's a grounds for a lot of argument right here.
Is it true that the air traffic controller notes that were recorded during the flight of those 3 planes?
A little louder, I can't hear you.
Is it true that the air traffic controller notes that were made when they were supervising those 3 planes up there roaming the skies had disappeared, gone?
Well, there are cassette tapes that recorded a lot of interesting information that one of the superiors of one of the superiors in the air traffic controller, I guess one of the airports, he actually cut up the tape and threw it in the garbage. I'm aware of that. There may have been other destruction of evidence as well. Read David Ray Griffin's excellent books. Over here? And who's next over here?
I saw an interview recently on the Real News Network and with Howard Zinn. He's the author of People's History of the United States, and they're asking him about the event, and he said that he didn't really have any doubt about the conspiracy thing, or he said he didn't really doubt any of the doubters, but he said that he thought that the pursuit of finding out exactly what happened at this point is a waste of useful energy. And he was saying, he compared it to the Gulf of Tonkin incident and the JFK assassination, and he said that his personal opinion is that no one will ever be able to prove anything undoubtedly, and no one will ever be whoever was responsible for this will never be incriminated and put away, or whatever it is that is the ultimate end goal. So I want to know how you feel about his opinion on the matter and why it isn't a waste of useful energy.
How many of you believe that we haven't proved controlled demolition today? I think Howard Zinn is wrong. There's one. Most 98% of the people we give this presentation to, on average, maybe 95 to 98, agree with us that these are controlled demolitions. Very few are unsure after the presentation. So clearly he's wrong. To the average people, we have proven it. Architects and engineers are even a greater percentage of proof. So clearly he's wrong. Whether it's useful to society to determine that the event that started 2 major wars, that started a policy of torture, that started the draining of the U.S. Treasury, that started draconian executive orders, that started the Homeland Security, and creating fear-mongering throughout America, I think it's useful that we look at the roots of all of that. And I think it's we'll answer your question in a second. We have a newsletter, and we let you know what's going on if you want to put your name and email on these sheets. Eric, Eric is back there? Oh, he's outside. So we'll start these, one in the back and one in the front, and I meant to do that earlier. If you've already signed it, then you don't need to sign it again. We'll make sure we get you. If you signed a sustaining member petition, one second, if you sign a sustaining member petition, sustaining member or petition, you'll get our newsletter too. So maybe that'll go faster. So let's not lose it. Keep it going and help me out. I also want to introduce you to the local 9/11 Truth Movement. I'd like to ask Don Coburn, Rich Besco to come up so we can talk about the activities that are going on here that you can support. Now, is Don here in the room? Don, come on up, please. And is Rich Besco in the room? Rich, come on up. Mark, come on up. And the gentleman in the back, while they're coming up, would you ask your question?
Well, I don't have a mic, but I have a pretty good voice, so...
Fire away.
All right, well, what the young man said, though, whether Howard, people have a hard time getting their heads around the idea that they were intentionally collapsed, you know what I mean? But the point is, let's ask ourselves what the motivations probably were. And he's very right. Look at Pearl Harbor, the sinking of the battleship Maine in Havana Harbor, the Gulf of Tonkin, all these things. Countries all around the world have always, the ruling classes always need to whip up some noble cause to justify their war aims around the world. They can't very well tell you, well, we want to extend our imperialist control to control the oil in the Middle East so we can have the Japanese and Europeans by the balls. They can't say that because how many people are going to join up in the military and fight and die for that? Okay.
Do you have a question?
I'm trying to make a bit of a statement and you can respond if we can, okay? Please,
Yeah.
I'll try to hurry.
One more
All
sentence.
right. The point is that you've got to be ready for this kind of stuff, folks. It's not that hard to rip the American people up into a war frenzy. It's not that difficult. And they really had a lot of motivation for doing this. And they're going to do more stuff. They're trying to get you ready for more wars of conquest around the world. Because their system is collapsing and their system is in dire emergency condition. And they're desperate. And they want to use you and your blood and your sons and daughters' blood and all your money and treasure to whip you up into, like they did about anti-communism, anti-terrorism, is always anti some big horrific enemy. So they can extend their power around the world, suppress rebellions of peoples around the world that want to overthrow repressive regimes that the United States is usually responsible for setting up and propping up around the world. You've got to be ready for this stuff, folks. You've got to not fall for it.